Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is our last session of Grit, and I just can't believe that it's come this fast. Can you?
No.
It's gone by so fast. I hope you guys have enjoyed the book study. A couple of housekeeping things. Let's remember that as we are chatting, that we are chatting with our parent hat on, no matter what our professional hat may be. Because this is a parent book study, so we want to speak as parents and help parents out within the chat box and everything like that. Another thing that I need your help with, a couple of things. So we do a lot of, I don't want to call it publicity, but I don't know how else to do it. Let me ask it this way. If you wouldn't mind sharing your thoughts with me about your experience in the book study, we have put it out to newspapers to talk about this and to create some buzz around it for, another way that we're helping parents. If you wouldn't mind doing that, and then we can add that comment. I believe that my email address, and this is Becky, my email address is in your packet. If you want to, if you could just send me a little snippet, a couple of sentences about your experience with the book study. And I always tell people, whenever I work with anybody, I always say, give me the good, the bad, the ugly. I can take it all. So whatever your experience is with this book study, we would love to have that. With that said, I think that we will also send out, it may not be for a month. I'll try and get it before then, but we've got another session of this book study going. But we would like to also send out a survey to see, to get your reactions from that. So two things. If you would like to share your feelings with me, and then I can put that to our PR firm and they can talk to newspaper about that and whatnot, then email me personally. And then also we would love for you to fill out the survey at the end and share everything with that. So I will go ahead and put my email in the chat box right now. Or actually, Ellen, will you put it in there for me?
I would be happy to, and they're asking for it, so I'll do that right now.
Yeah. So Ellen is going to add my email to the chat box right now because I don't have that up for some reason. So, okay, with that said, let's get started. This last part of this book, I think, is the best part of the book. Not that I haven't enjoyed all of it, but I feel like this is what we were all waiting for.
The meat and potatoes?
The meat and potatoes,
That's what we were waiting for.
We've had the hors d'oeuvres, we've had the vegetables, and now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of it. So let's just get started. We're on chapter 10. So this section is called Parenting for Grit. So the first question right off the bat is, looking at the graphic on page 212, what do you believe your parenting style is? And I kind of tried to look at that, and of course I think it's one thing, but I would love to know what my kids think it is. And so, but my compadre here, she actually gave that quiz to her kids.
I did. I took it myself first to see what I thought about how I was, and then I gave it to my kids, and I rated myself a little lower than they rated me.
So the graphic is on page 212, and the actual questions, if you would, are on page 214.
The next page. So yeah. I just copied it right out of the book and handed it to my kids and told them to write true and false next to them. And when I did it, I kind of came up with that I don't give them enough freedom, and I don't give them enough privacy. kind of more like a little bit more helicopter. But when they did it, they both said that I gave them enough privacy and freedom. So that was interesting to me. But then my son did say that I make most of his decisions about what he does. And he's 17, so I shouldn't be making most of them. But I don't think I am. I think I give him a lot of advice.
I would like, and so he's
word.
interpreting it that.
Yeah.
So you have younger children. My boys are grown.
Right.
So I actually think now, whether they'll do it or not, because they're quote unquote, air quotes, adults.
Right.
They're 29 and 25. I think I can get the 29-year-old for sure to do it. I'm not so sure about the 25-year-old. But possibly if they want to borrow money from me, they'll take it. So maybe I'll just hold them hostage to that. But I would love to find out what they think.
Yeah.
And so you said that you scored yourself lower than they did?
I did, like on giving them privacy, because I feel like I pay for the cell phone. And there's so many things on it that could be a downfall that it's my right to look at it. And then I just give my son a ton of social advice because he struggles socially.
Right.
And so there are pitfalls that and maybe he takes that as word, or maybe I need to rephrase it and say, this is my concern, but you make that decision.
Oh.
Instead of just saying this and this and this and this, maybe need to say, I'm concerned about this, or this is what I see. Now you go and do what you, so that I'm letting him make mistakes and learn instead of just, so they scored me higher on those.
Yeah.
Than I did.
So maybe it's not only just taking the quiz, but now it's going back and actually having that conversation with them to read a little bit more into their thoughts.
Yes, because I gave him advice tonight and I didn't say, you choose. I said, I'm worried. Why don't you do this? Yeah. So I already did phrase it that way. So I'm already going back and analyzing, saying, I did that tonight. So,
but that's the great thing, because now we know, right?
Right.
Now we know, and we can go back and do that. Kristen Huber, I would love to know what you said. You gave your children the quiz, and it was surprising what they thought. I would love to hear more about that if you want to chat that in the box.
So I did the test with my children. My child, who was a student with disabilities, who I felt like I probably overparented. He actually, I gave myself a better score than he did. However, my other children, who I had do the test, rated me similarly to how I rated myself. So isn't that interesting? So I wonder if we, as parents, because we have our personalities don't always gel, and we have challenges with certain children that maybe we're not the best at handling those challenges, or it takes us time. We might have different scores based on different children.
I love that thought, because I already know that my 29-year-old is going to be different than my 25-year-old.
Right.
Because I admittedly treat them different.
Right.
Because they need different things from me.
Right.
I won't. Okay, I'll make this statement, but then I'll clarify. My expectations were different for each one of them.
Yeah.
Because their strengths were different.
Right.
And so the expectations that I had were high still for both of them, but they weren't equal, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And I mean, I can't really compare my 10-year-old to my 17-year-old.
Right.
Because a 10-year-old, I'm still, I am controlling her more.
Right.
Because she's 10.
It would be interesting, though, to give them this at different stages.
Right.
In their growing up.
Because I'm not really concerned about her answers as far as that,
right,
as I am my 17-year-old that said I make the decisions for him.
Right.
That's more concerning to me than if she does. Because she's like, well, you tell me if I can go play. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I'm not really.
Because it's a different kind of parenting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kristen, thanks for getting back to me. My kids thought I made all their decisions.
Yep.
And they did not have enough freedom. I thought I was a very flexible parent. I am a demanding parent, though. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being demanding.
Right.
Because I think I'm demanding, too. Kristen, can you tell me what age your kids are? I would love to know that, too.
I do think it's interesting to give it to them and then analyze and about how you're parenting and your decisions. And like, you know,
Well, and I think
what you can change.
I think that is where that graphic can come into play.
The one on 212.
Yes, thank you for the page number again.
Yes.
Because I think I don't really like these names on them. I don't know how
Permissive, authoritarian.
Yeah, I don't know how I would phrase them differently, but I struggled with the names on it.
Well, and sometimes
nobody wants to be a neglectful parent, right?
Right, but sometimes you purposely might be unsupportive.
Right.
Because if you completely disagree, then you're not going to support.
Right.
Kristen says she has an 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 11-year-old, and 8-year-old. So she had all the ages. And then she said something else, but it went away. So we need to find it.
I guess I think that's how the younger they are, the more controlled they feel.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think that's on purpose. We slowly let them become an adult.
Right. Absolutely.
And have more and more responsibility. And if we give them too much, then it can put them in danger.
Yes.
In certain circumstances.
But if you don't give them enough, then they don't learn how to do that, right?
And I just thought of this because I wrote it. That it made me feel gritty when my son was talking to me about this. I felt that kind of that grittiness that said, well, I'm going to try to improve this relationship. I took his feedback and thought, well, I'm going to make some improvements on the areas that he felt. He's still living at my home, so I have the chance with him. But I thought it was funny because I'd been reading Duckworth, and I thought, yeah, well, I'll just make this better. So I've been trying to have more conversations with him, and it's never too late. And that's what's beautiful about children is even when they're adults, it's never too late to repair relationships and improve them.
Yeah. Right.
That's great.
I love that. So question number 2 to that, in kind of still looking at this parenting ways, is were you parented in a psychologically wise way? Again, I have a hard time with those phrases, and I really looked at this, and I don't know. I hate to admit this, but I didn't have a great relationship with my parents. Mm-hmm. I don't have a close relationship with my brother or my sister. And that's there's no stuff there, but I just don't remember them being very supportive in what I did. I mean, not that they weren't not supportive. I just don't remember them being there for me a lot.
Uh-huh.
So,
well, and I found that a lot harder to analyze than my parenting because, I mean, I'm an adult. I'm in my 40s. I can't just,
right.
And then it all says my parents, and I really would have to split them out and do my mom and my dad in 2 separate.
Yeah.
It just didn't. So for me, it was harder. But I do think that, my mom used love and logic on me nonstop. And I do think that she was supportive and there. But sometimes she was pushy about my decisions, didn't like them, didn't agree with them. But, and that pushed her into unsupportive, but she didn't agree. Yeah. So, and I'm talking about when I was older. So, yeah, it was harder for me. That was harder for me than to try to analyze what I'm doing.
I think you just have to take it into whatever context you're in at that moment, right?
And that's hard when you're 40 to look back and say, okay, when I was 10, how did they, when I was 16?
Exactly. Because I'm sure I have a brother and a sister, and I'm sure that my recollection of things, and I am the oldest, my recollection of things growing up is so much different than theirs.
Right. That's true. And it's based on age, too, because parents parented you differently.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you did your sons.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, though, that as a group, all of us doing this book study are probably a little bit ahead because we're looking at it and we're thinking about it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's huge. I think that's a great thing.
One thing I do want to mention is on page 213. So I just wrote down some of the things that came out of this chapter for me. And I thought that this was powerful. It says, what matters more than the message parents aim to deliver are the messages their children receive.
Right.
And I think that comes out if we give them this scale for them to rate us. Yeah. I hadn't even really thought about that. That's genius that you had your kids do that. I think I would have been scared.
My 10-year-old wanted me to define a lot of things. What does this mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And maybe we could take it and make it a little more kid friendly.
Right, for the younger.
Yeah, but I thought that was brilliant to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I liked what Catherine said. Let's see if I can find this. I had no skill for abuse and how their good behaviors offset, complement, or destroy the type of parenting niche you think they belong in. But I thought too of, depending on when you were raised, there were some really strange parenting ideas or theories on parenting.
Never hug.
Never hug. Those kinds of things. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to look back and judge, and I think it made it a little bit more difficult to look at that scale and kind of.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think everybody just fits into a nutshell, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
And you go through harder times as a family, better times as a family.
Right.
Oh,
right.
I accidentally hit the button. Sorry.
That's okay. On page 214, it says, growing up with support, respect, and high standards confers a lot of benefits. Wise parenting encourages children to emulate their parents. But I want to say, even though I may not have had that, I still, I'm still a good person, right?
Right. Well, and because you develop from the bad too, don't you?
Right. So
you can choose to develop into a very good person.
So the things
from the bad
I saw with my parents is they were hard workers. And that's what I took away from
That's
that.
great.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not that I emulated everything, but I did take that sense of hard work and the sense of family away from them.
Yeah.
Also on page 219 to 220, this is really what helped me, is not every grit paragon or example has had the benefit of a wise father and mother, but everyone could point to someone in their life who at the right time, in the right way, encouraged them to aim high and provide badly needed confidence and support. That right there is what helped me.
Right.
And I don't know that she ever knew it to the extent. I had several people that I looked up to and that I aspired to be like. One was my aunt. And I didn't get to see her that often. I lived in Oregon. She lived here in Utah. But she was one that I aspired to be like. And then I had a couple of really strong teachers in my background that really, pushed me beyond what I thought I could do. Right?
Right. Well, and I think right before that, she talks about the two examples of the football player and of the comedian and how differently they were raised, but that they were both raised to learn that grit and it's just what you value. And then I think on purpose she had two that valued things very differently. And then Cody Coleman was the boy who was born in the prison, and it was his brother just saying something at the right time, that made the difference for him, which is what you're talking about, like just having that example and that. Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I've had to step back. So I know my younger son he interacts more with parents of his friends than he does with his own parents. And I've kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, they're offering him something that he needs that I may not be given. And I've really had to be okay with that.
I could see that being hard.
Oh, yeah.
To make that decision to be okay with that.
So with my ex-husband, it was really hard with him. And they would fight about it all the time. But I learned very early on that I couldn't, if I kept on him about that relationship, that I was only going to push him more there. So I had to make peace with it and be okay with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I like this idea. Diana says, yes, I like this quote too. There were several mentors that flowed through my life and helped me be a better person. So that idea that mentors, coaches, teachers sometimes fill the gaps that parents miss, or the lack of parents.
Absolutely.
Well, and it really is,
to take the place.
It really is. There are different things to offer, and as parents, we should, be open to that. But I can see how it would be hard too.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, sorry, I did a lot of talking there.
No, you were great.
Let me end by this. Diana then added too. I also use the technique of saying, I don't want to blank like my mother or father. Instead, I will blank. So instead of turning it into a negative, make it a positive, like this is what I am going to do.
Yeah, I think you can do that without being negative towards your parents too, and just they did the best they could.
They did the best that they could with the resources that they had.
Right.
They didn't have the resources that we have now.
And all this research that we have now that's being proven. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, let's go on to chapter 11. Go ahead.
hey, do you think every moment of a child's day should be scripted?
Oh, it's such
I
a
want to hear. I want to watch the chat box.
It's such a loaded question.
It is. That's why I was like, I just want to watch the chat box. I did a no with 3 exclamation marks. Oh, and I'm hearing a bunch of no's. Okay, look at this. Absolutely not.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
a lot of no's. So they were with me.
And mine is a no as well. And I have to share an experience that I had.
It's phrased every moment.
Yes.
Okay, of your experience.
But I have to say, I have seen parents run themselves ragged with all of the different things that all their kids are in, right?
Right.
And I just felt like, first of all, the kids need a breather, and so do the parents. But I actually had a really bad experience with this. So I was at the time, and I hate to bring church stuff into this, but it was church. So I was in Young Women's, and it was whatever those nights are called. I can't think of them right now. Anyway,
Young Women's Night.
Yeah, sorry. So my boys at the time were in the Young Men's program. They did not go to Young Men's. And I had one of the young men instructors come over and ask me where my boys were. And I said, well, I'm sorry, they're just getting done with they both did cross country and track. So they had practice after school. And then after that, or they would have meets or whatever, then they needed to come home and do homework.
Right.
And they said, well, it's very important for them to be here. And I said, I don't believe so. I said, my boys are both in something that they love and that they're dedicated to.
Right.
And I said, they don't need 4 or 5 different things every night. I said, one thing is about all I can handle to get them to.
Right.
First of all. And I said, and they have to have a balance with school. I mean, It can't just be all these activities all the time. He was very angry with me. And to be honest, I was released a short while later.
Well, and I think there's, we were just talking about it takes a village, but then I do think parental rights and having the last say in your child's free time is very important too. A lot of people were saying that it gives them time for creativity.
Actually, yes.
And that's where
yes.
But let's add what Emily said, which I really think is important. She said, my high-functioning autistic son needs more scripted and structured activities than my neurotypical children. And I think that's really true. In fact, they crave that schedule. Yeah. And so we may have to look at
and maybe we're looking at the
differently.
Maybe we're looking at the question a little bit differently. So for me, I looked at it, my lens on it, and I appreciate your lens. Who was it?
I'm sorry, Emily.
Emily, I appreciate your lens on it. My lens on that was that, they have piano lessons. Then they go to, I don't know, some other kind of lesson. Then they go to gymnastics, and then they go to soccer. Every night's, a different thing. So they've actually got 5 or 6 different things going on in one week.
And that's different than like letting a child know this is the schedule.
Right.
And
right.
This is what to expect.
Yeah. So perhaps that was the way. I appreciate your lens on that, though, because you're very right.
That's a very different way of looking at it.
Absolutely. They need that structure and routine. Yep.
Yeah, my kids, I don't know, they do well with no structure and routine. Sometimes we are just flying by the seat of our pants. But I went the same way with creativity. My daughter will make things. She's made a cat tree. We do not own a cat. She's made an entire airplane that we rode in, and she had snacks. And she had walls up. I mean, she just, like, if I let her have that free time, big messes happen, but big creativity happens with her. And, and that's just, not so much for the teenager. Free time, he tries to be on Fortnite as much as he can. He's trying to, but, I try to limit that too.
So. Yeah, I think really what it's just saying is having us really analyze how they're spending their time. I think that's really the gist of this question. Is what they're doing with their time good, and is it giving positive outcomes?
Yes.
And is it helping them in our way of looking at things? Is it helping them to grow that grit?
Right. And I think looking at each individual child and their needs with this question is a
Oh,
wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too. So I think that's a good thing. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to read it or do you want me?
I can. Is there a positive correlation between grit scores and family income? Why, or there is, not is there, there is a positive correlation between grit scores and family income. Why do you think this is? They talk about this quite a bit in the book.
Yeah,
She
so
does.
I have an opinion on it, but what do you think?
Should we say what she said? She said that they're more likely to graduate from college, and they do more volunteer work. Extracurricular projects also lead to that job retainment, especially if when you do extracurricular activities for more than 2 years. So it's that idea of getting them used to working hard, but doing something they enjoy too.
Yeah.
That seems to bring some of those outcomes.
I think it's the hierarchy of needs too, that if you don't have the income, you're focusing on the other things.
Right.
But then you do see those examples of a standout person that came from absolutely nothing, and they watched their parent work 3 jobs to put them through school.
Right.
And so school was everything, and they become a doctor or something.
Right.
So you do see those outliers too, where that they pulled themselves up because they really wanted that next generation to succeed. So, but I took a lot into the extracurriculars and having that's a privilege and a gift that not every student has. So what was your opinion?
So I think opportunities are afforded with more income.
Yes.
I look at this in my own family, meaning my brother and my sister. Well, my brother's really not a part of this because he doesn't have children, but my sister has kids, and she is the one that barely graduated from high school. I don't think that she has 3 children. I don't think any of them have graduated. I don't remember any of them being in any kind of sports or activities or anything like that. And so I just, and hence they're all still living with her and one has a baby. Not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying they just haven't had those opportunities because she hasn't had the means to give them those opportunities, right?
Right.
So I do think, I think that's a reason why.
One thing I was going to say too, we were very middle class, and I couldn't afford a lot of the activities. So my daughter secured a job really early, and then kind of built her job skills, and soon was managing at a young age. So there's other ways to
Absolutely
show grit, and that, I know it doesn't sound like an extracurricular activity, but she was just an amazing manager, which has led her into this early. She's got into an aesthetics program, paid for it herself, and she's now teaching. So because of those early experiences of being really gritty in work and kind of seeing that as her extracurricular activity, she's used that opportunity to and built it into something that's really gives her a lot of self-esteem.
And I think that makes sense. I thought about my husband because his parents were teachers, and we know teachers don't make a ton of money, and they had a lot of kids. And so he was buying his stuff by a young age, but he did a paper route and worked at a fast food place from 14. Well, I think he did the paper route even younger, but he bought himself a set of drums. And he drummed and was in a band and was very active, and he won 49th Street Gallery of Battle of the Bands one year. And so he paid for all of that on his own, but he basically created his extracurricular out of his favorite thing, which was music, and out of like the biggest, most painful instrument, which was a drum set, and so I think there are, paper route teaches grit, whether
there are ways.
Catherine says early called. And his parents helped him with it. And if he wanted a bike, his parents paid for half of it and helped him earn the other half. So they had less money, but they had that grit and those resources to do that. And they didn't really have less money. They just had a big family, and, it just added up that way to where kids needed to. So that taught him grit and got him.
Right.
I felt like when I was thinking about this, I felt like he created his own extracurricular.
Absolutely.
By doing that.
And I did not have a lot of opportunities growing up either. Like I always wanted to be a ballet dancer. We couldn't afford ballet lessons.
Mhm.
So, and I have since found out that I have no rhythm.
I have no rhythm either. We're together on that.
Because one of my first extracurriculars when I went to college was I took a ballet class. Worst class ever, ever. Like I've never been screamed at so much by somebody to tell me to tuck my hips in. I didn't even know what that meant. So I understand that. But I'm just saying that that's why I think that there is, but I also, grit can be found in other ways.
Yeah, I think so. And I was going to add on to what Ellen said about her daughter is that the data for kids with disabilities shows that if they get, not that your daughter has a disability, but that if they work, they're going to be much more employable later.
Right.
And that's something really good to do. So I think by the time they get to a certain age, work is key.
Right. And I raised sheep growing up. I raised a market lamb each year.
Oh.
Because I was in, I think they have this in some places of the state. It was called 4-H.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So that was something that I didn't have to pay to go to. I could just join that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did have to buy a lamb, and I raised a market lamb each year. So my parents paid for the food, but it taught me, I logged everything that they spent or helped me with for that lamb. So when I sold that lamb at market during the summer, I first paid them back because I kept track of everything, and then I was able to go buy my school clothes for the year.
That was like a business loan.
Absolutely.
It was
so for me, it taught me, for one thing, it taught me your bills come first, right?
Right.
So there's different ways of doing that.
Yeah.
And I like that. Amanda said that mixed feelings. I came from very little money, which I did as well. And it taught me to work hard for what I wanted, hence my sheep for my school clothes. My opportunity wasn't as easy as those more well off, but I doubled down and worked hard to obtain my opportunity. Absolutely. So I think there's lessons on both ways, right?
I agree.
So I don't know that it's a yes and no question.
Yeah, and then Elizabeth said, I know so many moms who don't have their kids do chores because they want them done a certain way. And I was touching on that with my foot and being injured. I still, if I try to unload the dishwasher, it hurts. And so I'm still at that point where I just need my kids and my husband's fabulous, but I just need them to do more. And, I've caught my son, this week was very kind of humbling to me because I'm around the corner and he's emptying the kitchen garbage without me even seeing. And he's, I'm walking toward him and he's cutting up his sister's pizza without anyone saying anything. And there were 4 times this week where he did that. And I just was like, oh, he just knows that right now he's gotta do more. But I think it's something that may be permanent with him because he's just, a sweetheart. So for me, that was really, really heartwarming to see that I've gone from, okay, guys, I really need this, do this, to to they're just quietly doing it. And it's so nice.
But it's hard. It's hard as a parent, right, to let go of the way we want things done.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally hard. I think the worst is teaching them to fold laundry. My goodness.
Okay. Because it's good enough for them if it's just in their basket.
Just throw it in your drawer. I won't look. So, yeah.
Great comments.
Yeah, you guys I'm just trying to catch up with the chat.
Emily said chores equal life skills.
Yeah.
So think about that. We talk about teaching kids life skills at school. Chores at home, you teach those life skills.
And if you let them cook and you start with the grocery list and everything, well, you start with a recipe and you let them choose something they love. Like my son loves shrimp, so I let him choose shrimp. Then he had to look up a recipe. Then he had to write down the ingredients. Then he had to go to the store and get them. And then he had to make it for dinner. And that's a ton of work. But it's like with the lamb, it's from the beginning to the end instead of just, hey, make dinner. And because I let him choose something he loved, he's all proud of it and enjoying it. And so I think, you can get creative and not do that every night. You don't have time, but you can do it.
But I think we have to do that more because I'm always surprised at what my kids don't know how to do.
Right.
My kid came back from his mission, and I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was mailing off papers for school or whatever. He did not know how to address an envelope.
Well, I think that'd be more increasingly for the younger generation.
Absolutely, because they don't have to do that.
Like that.
Because
Yeah.
everything, it's email.
There's a video of kids trying to do a rotary phone.
Oh, I
around
saw
on
that.
Facebook.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
like they just don't even know. They didn't
Yep.
know to pick up the handset because
I know.
Oh gosh.
I know. So I think we
funny.
need to have a class just on the old ways of doing things or something.
Yeah.
Okay, question 5 of that.
Oh, this one. How might you apply the hard thing rule in your life? If you have children, how does it compare with your parenting style?
So the hard thing rule is on page 241.
I do think that since we are an organization with kids with disabilities, I do think that it is affected by having kids with disabilities because there's what they want to do and then there's what's available in the community. And there is an awful lot available in the community, but finding it sometimes that's the right, like my son wants to play baseball, where's the right league? Because he's not going to be on the high school team because he hasn't played he probably could be capable, but he hasn't played for like 10 years, And so finding that right opportunity, it's not always just, you can't just cherry pick any person. Like we had a piano teacher for a while that gave my daughter so much anxiety. She was having stomach aches and really struggling. And, so I do think it's affected by that.
It is.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So,
do we want to go over the rule? I'm kind of putting them on there.
Oh.
So the hard thing rule was just that the author, Angela Duckworth, had
there's number 1. Everyone has Ellen's putting them up.
Go over them.
Ellen's typing them for us.
Okay.
So we'll be fine.
So she just challenged her kids that each quarter, or I don't know how long it was, but they had to try something hard, and it was really to teach them perseverance through it. Now, I don't think I necessarily had the hard rule with my kids, but what I did have, so I have 2 boys. We were very into sports. They were both into crazy sports and things. We did have the rule that if you join something and you don't like it,
you have to stay.
You have to stay and complete it because you were part of that team and we signed you up and you made a commitment. So it was working through all of that. And then there were times that we had to say, I think my older one was in baseball. Never even hit anything, didn't make a hit or anything. His team was awesome. Like the team as a whole went to championships, but he wanted to quit because he himself was not feeling successful. And so that was a hard year to make him go through that, but that was the rule in our house. And not only that, we had to have several discussions with him throughout that you have to not only participate, but you have to actually participate. Like you can't just show up and not do anything. Like you have to do your best at what you're doing. So that was our hard thing rule in our house.
So I like Valerie said, she says, I have allowed my kids to leave or quit things if they have fulfilled a certain expectation. So, and Angela talks about that in her book, that you pick a natural period, ending period. So whether it be the end of the quarter or the end of a semester or the end of a season. And Valerie's reiterating that. Though dedication and perseverance are necessary characteristics, I feel there is no need to waste time doing something they don't love anymore. And I really agree with that. And she talked about that in the book when she talked about studying French and some of the other things that she did. That she said that was taking a lot of my time, and I decided I could take that time and put it towards something I really loved or I was passionate about.
I think it also has to do with the outcome that you were wanting for that child, right?
Right.
So both of my boys with their sports, it was more than just about them participating. I wanted them to work with the team. That if they weren't there, they were letting down their commitment to that team. It wasn't just them, it was a whole team thing. So I think it does have to do with really what you want that outcome to be.
I agree. And trying it and hating it is an experience in and of itself. Like you said with ballet,
right?
That was a hard class, and you figured out, that isn't for me. And
right.
You sometimes have to do that.
Oh my gosh, I had wanted to do that my entire childhood, and it just dashed all my dreams. But I couldn't quit the class. I had to keep going with the class.
Let me share Mary's comment because everyone seems to really like it. She says, depending on the situation, the hard thing rule is good. With my grandson on the spectrum, we sometimes have to use the hard thing rule because sometimes he's afraid to try. Like he crashed on his bike the first time without training wheels and refused to try it, but became frustrated because the other kids in the neighborhood were riding their bikes. We just told him that if he learned to ride, then he could ride bikes with the others. Took a few weeks, but finally paid off, and now we can't get him off the bike.
Right.
I love that story.
It goes into that. It goes into that thing of, and I don't think we're there yet, but it's into that we need to teach them. And I use this all the time with people, all the time. We need to teach our kids how to fail and work through that failure. Not give up. That's not the answer. You got to work through it and get back up and keep going.
Oh, I agree. And I think I like how the hard rule thing is one thing because of that over scripting again.
Right.
I think it balances it and makes sure, and I think it's okay to have breaks where they aren't doing stuff too. and then times when they are. I think both. So.
And then we're teaching them that life isn't always easy, right?
Right. And Jan says that. Jan said the rule is a primer for later in life where we really get hard things.
Yes,
I love that.
That's true. It is a primer for
that. How many days at work are hard? It's not like I can just quit.
Right.
Like I have to work through that. So I think these are little life lessons. This is also what I like to say. It's life lessons that we can teach our kids that don't cost a lot. Right? That's not costly for them.
Right.
It's an easy price to pay.
Right, because some people grow up and if there's a hard day at work, they do quit. and then they struggle with that, and it's a lesson, it's harder to learn then than it is when you're doing a hard thing rule with your parents.
So my 25-year-old about 2 months ago called me crying. That's not ever a good sign. Well, first, it's not a good sign because I don't expect him to call me. Second, I pick up the phone and he's crying. But he said to me, he goes, Mom, I did something really stupid. Of course, my mind is going 50 directions. And he goes, I got upset at work and quit. And we have always had a rule in our family that you don't quit a job until you have another job ready to go. And so I had to really spend some time with him, talk through that with him, and I'll give it to him. He went back and he talked to the bosses and he told them the frustrations, and I for sure thought he was going to be back in my basement. But he wasn't. He got back and is still working for him, still likes it, still going. So they came to some compromises.
He had a hiccup.
So it was, but it told me that oops, I failed, but now I got to work it out. Right,
which was probably a huge learning experience. Right,
and I'm like, yay! So
that's fabulous.
Yeah, but that's what that reminded me of.
Diana's giving a lot of great references that are helpful. I like that. Thanks, Diana.
Okay, we probably got to go on.
We do.
Chapter 12. Right? Are we still on? Yes.
Yes, so we have 12 and 13 left.
I think we haven't done question 6, though, have we?
I don't know if we have.
Okay.
5? No, we did that.
Oh, I probably hit it.
That's okay.
Too many times. Yep.
So, a culture of grit. So, Duckworth says, if you want to be grittier, find a gritty culture and join it. as a parent, do you belong to a gritty culture? And then the next part of the question is, how can we help guide our children to find their gritty culture?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that I definitely have had friends come in and out of my life, but I definitely feel like I surround myself with people that respect me and push me.
Mm-hmm.
Know more of what I can do than I think I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to surround myself with people who just tell me constantly, "Oh, you're so wonderful, you're so wonderful." I want people to push me.
So you're purposefully making sure you're in a
I
gritty.
feel like I am. Yes. I feel like I am. But that's just how I look at it.
When I really, really stopped and thought about it, I realized that I have valued traditionally like a warm and welcoming and kind culture
Uh-huh.
over a gritty culture.
Oh.
That's kind of what I've
Uh-huh.
valued more, and even more so for when I'm looking at my kids and the kind of culture that they're in.
But I also think, because I'm
So-
older than you,
Yeah.
I also think it's different times in your life too.
Yeah, that's true.
So there definitely was a time when I needed that embrace and that warm and welcome, and now
Like the grit.
yeah, maybe I'm just old and I don't care what people think. I don't know.
Well,
I just need someone to push me.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, I hate to break subject, but Diana wrote a really good thing, and she's been using this on her. This quote is so good. It's from the book, or it was Amanda. I like the quote that circles around not being afraid to fail. I feel like our kids, and we tend to give up because we may fail. When in reality, failing is and can be a stepping point to something greater if we allow it.
Absolutely.
Earlier tonight, I wrote on the kids' mirror, success is never final. Failure is never fatal. So, let's see, it's courage that counts.
Amanda,
That was by John
I think
Wooden.
you read my notes.
Isn't that great?
It is so great.
Yes, that is absolutely one that's in my notes, and that's by John Wooden, and it's on page 264. Also on page 263, it said in there, one person's grit enhances the grit of others.
Yes.
So I feel like if you get around gritty people, like maybe, like I don't necessarily think my parents had it, so I sought it elsewhere.
Well, and I love this like grit with failure
Uh-huh.
paradigm because you don't often think of those two together, but I really like that. We've had kind of a rough week, and so I had to have my son help my daughter with math, and she says, "But Mom, last time he did it all wrong." And I said, "Well, you're supposed to be doing it, first of all." And I said, "Second of all, if it's done all wrong, that's okay. I want it done." Because I wasn't going to be home and available, and we are one of those houses where we help with math a lot at night. So anyway, so having them sit and have her do her best, even if it's wrong, because I'm not there and I'm not available, that still tells me what she knows and what she doesn't, where she's at, what she still needs help with, and it still gives her a completed assignment to turn in the next day if I'm absolutely not available. Even if it's done wrong, which you don't want your kid to sit down and do a whole assignment wrong, and she didn't. It wasn't all wrong, but it's that she's putting up a roadblock. Well, you're not here. I know I'm not. You still have to sit down and try.
Right.
And see what you can do.
Absolutely.
And,
I think we're moving on to 7 with this idea that I just shared. You want to go ahead and read what 7 is?
No, I was going to read Julie's comment in here. Julie says, I'm a long distance trail runner. That's definitely a gritty bunch of people and a gritty culture. I would agree after having 2 boys in cross country, that crazy. They're out running in the snow and they're doing high altitude. Their coach had them up at Alta running during the summers. Yeah.
Well, and
their mom could not have done that.
I was about to say the parent cannot get a kid to do that necessarily. Even my son, he worked for 5 months at a movie theater, and I had to mop the entire floor. he has to do what he's told there, and sometimes that makes him grittier than when he's with me, and I'm maybe being more lenient or not teaching him as much.
Right.
So,
Mary, your talking here sparked something else. So I guess regarding gritty culture, it may depend on how gritty. But I was thinking about the Enron example. The culture was too gritty and it failed. Absolutely.
yes, and I really thought about that. What are you rewarding your kids for?
Yeah.
And I think it's that whole growth mindset and the courage to try. Catherine said, I'm a single mom and I really need my kids to help. I can't do it all. And that's, letting them work and letting them do that. I think it's such a great thing.
Yeah, I wish I would have had mine do more.
So that necessity sometimes is the mother of invention, or an ice cigarette. Yeah.
And that's what's happened with me is I got desperate. I was like, you guys need to stop being spoiled and do more.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so question number 7 says, failures are going to happen, and how you deal with them may be the most important thing in whether you succeed. You need fierce resolve. You need to take responsibility. You call it grit. I call it fortitude. That was by J.P. Morgan Chase, and that's a big bank conglomerate. That was on page 253. 253. I don't know what it is, but I talk about this all the time. You can't have a perfect life and not everything goes right all the time. Failures are going to happen, but it's how you deal with it. And it's like I'm telling my cousins with their young children, you have to teach them how to fail. I don't feel like kids. And I'm from the era of everybody hits the ball, everybody runs the bases, everybody gets a trophy at the end of the season, even though we didn't win one game. I was the coach of a junior jazz team and we didn't win one game. Yet we all got trophies. There was something hard about me giving that trophies to those kids. I mean, they expected them, first of all. And I just gave them to them and I said, I really appreciated your hard work this season. But, you didn't get it because we didn't win anything.
But I think the kids probably valued those trophies less too because they
didn't.
I think kids value what they earned. Yeah, really, really earned.
They know.
But I think as I get older, I see my failures as just data, and I go back and I look and I just think, what can I adjust? Right. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids. But I think kids have different personalities. I have a perfectionist in my house, and she's not okay with it. She's not okay with failure. And my other one is. And so it's going to be like reteaching and using daily examples to say, look, this is what happened and it's okay. And how do we adjust? Right. But I think as I get older, I'm like, oh, okay. But I do different.
I see that even right now with my 2 boys. So 29 and 25, 29-year-old. He's the one I've talked about before, that if his assignment's 5 minutes late, he throws it in the garbage, right? He's so hard on himself.
I think I would cry.
And then the other one is like, okay, how many times are you going to take this very same class? Like, can we get past this? He just keeps taking them over.
He just keeps trying.
He keeps trying.
That's
because
gritty.
He's not doing exactly. But it's frustrating for me. But
well, there was that example in the book, and I'm sorry, I don't know where, of the doctor that couldn't learn a new procedure, and they finally had him repeat back. Right. And that self-reflection, like how often are we just telling our kids, do it, do this, do this, do this, instead of pausing and letting them think through what they did and how to do it differently? That is something that we need to let them do. I know with my daughter, like, she had one more problem to do, and all heck broke loose because she had one more problem to do, and it's too hard and I can't do it. And then she targeted her dad and blamed him for everything because she's really smart. And we're like, no, you're responsible for your decisions and you're responsible for that. And even if you do it and get it wrong, it wasn't that hard. She just didn't want to do it. So it was big.
I do have to say, I remember my boys, when they would come home and they'd say, this teacher is being so mean to me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and tell me your part in this. And they would get so mad at me. They're like, Mom, you're never for us. You're always for them. I said, no, I just want to know both sides of the story, because there are two sides and you're only telling me yours. So I want to hear your perception of it. I want to hear what you did in this case. Because something happened. Your teacher just doesn't do this because they don't like you. Right? So I just remember that was, they just hated that. Pete Carroll, love, love, love. In fact, I think I'm going to go buy his book. He is the Seattle Seahawks football coach.
Oh, she ends with a lot about this.
I loved that whole section. I love the Seahawks, I'll just say that, but I admire this coach so much more now after hearing about all of this. So one part that he put in there, and I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, our opponent creates challenges that help us become our best selves. I think that's so empowering to think about. Mm-hmm. So I think you could put that at anything you do in life.
Right.
Your opponents are only going to better you.
Right.
Right? And we should better our opponents. I think it's a two-way street.
Yes.
So I just love that quote.
Yeah, I think she ended with a lot about them because it was kind of her ultimate example.
It was a big aha for her, I felt like, in the book.
It was like a stark contrast to Enron. It was
kind of
the opposite of the spectrum. I liked how toward the end, too, she talked about how they no longer do hazing.
Yes.
And that because I think psychologically wise people would leave if they're being tortured mentally and physically.
Yes.
And so I think you are excluding a group, and that was right before that section. But I loved all this stuff about the Seattle Seahawks and
absolutely,
and all that they had. And
Amanda, I really like your thought here. It says, personally, I think we put a lot of unrealistic pressure on ourselves trying to find the perfect life, realizing that our life is perfect in its own perfect way is essential.
And sometimes I think that goes back to social media too, of
absolutely,
looking at somebody else's perfect life. I had put something out and had that, someone say, well, that just makes me feel so bad. And I'm like, well, I didn't put the worst times. I just put a good time on there. I didn't, because you're not going to put the worst time. You're going to put, you're going to put something that was happy.
I think it comes back to earlier in our sessions, and this goes back to Mindset by Carol Dweck, and also there's Mathematical Mindset, which is Joe Bowler. Joe Bowler and Angela Duckworth have both studied under Carol Dweck at Stanford. So I just completely lost that thought. Oh, it's the performance culture. Because we value the end result. We don't get a chance to see all of the work that's gone into that end result. We only look at that end result.
Right.
And I think that's false advertising.
I do
for
too.
Kids, right?
And I think teachers need to be careful with that too.
Absolutely.
Because, if they're only going for that end result, they're not looking at that kiddo that just tries so hard and does so much and, gets pulls a great grade, and that,
Right.
I don't know. I love the, looking at their effort and what they did versus.
I love this little snippet on page 266. It says, be all that you can be, whatever that is for you. Reach for your best. That tells me that not everything, it doesn't have to be the same for everybody.
No, it does not. Even the Seahawks compete against themselves, not the other team.
Right. To me, we're talking a lot in schools and in education about equity. To me, that's equity.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Be all that you can be, whatever that is for you. Reach for your best.
That's like my son loves art, and he comes up with some things that just amaze me. Mm-hmm. But compared to other students, maybe it's not, up to their standards. But wow, for what he can do, I just think it's amazing. So we are at
I want to just add, I love his idea about coaching. That when the kid was struggling, he said we need to give him a plan. So, we need someone to explain what
Right.
he needs to do specifically to get back to good grades. He needs a plan. He needs you to help him figure out those next steps. And that's what I think parenting is all about and being a teacher is all about. It's okay to sit down and make a plan with a kid, and to just expect them to come up with it on their own is just too much to ask.
But especially if you sit down and make it with them,
yeah,
that teaches
Yeah.
them for the future how to make that plan, and that you'll partner with them and you'll help them.
that was
Yeah.
Steve.
Well,
Carroll
and
again.
yeah, and this is why, and I've seen it personally in the coaching of my boys in cross country. Their coach was phenomenal in that he would take his own time. The kids would set their goals, and he would take his time and write them race plans according to their goal that they set for themselves,
cool.
and he would write race plans for them to achieve that goal.
That's very cool.
Is that not powerful? Loved that. Loved that.
That is great.
Okay, so I know it's last. We're all different clocks here, but it is 8:00. So the last one was just any closing thoughts that you had about the book. I just wrote down that I love the thought that you can grow grit. Right? It's not something we're born with. It's not something that needs to be stagnant. We can grow it. But more importantly, we can grow it from the inside out and from the outside in. Also, to be gritty is to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, I loved, I loved getting to the end and listening to her talk about how there still need to look into what it's like to grow up with a gritty parent or those different things. But I love this from Diana. She says, make friends with yourself and you'll never be alone. When you have grit, I think we love, respect, and like ourselves more. What I liked about the book was it really made me reflect and think through how I perceive things, because we all have those different lenses.
Uh-huh.
I really liked that it made me reflect, like I like having my kids take the quiz, or like, oh, I really don't value gritty as much as I do supportive and warm. I think, that's, those are things to reflect on and to think about. And so I liked how it made me, because I'm not a self-help book person, and I wouldn't say this is a self-help book specifically. I would say it goes way beyond that. And so that helped me because I'm like, I don't need help. I will just keep plugging along. I'm one of those people that will just plug. And
Right.
So it's good for me to stop and self-reflect and do that, because I'm very much a put my head down. I'm not going to cry about it. I am just going to plod forward, man.
I'm just mad.
I'm
just mad that I didn't have this book when my kids were young.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. This is what's great about these parents. I've got to stop, though, because people are asking, will there be future book discussions? And I'm going to leave that for Becky and Amy to answer.
Oh, Becky. Go for it. I'm just kidding.
Future book discussions. Well, I don't know.
We love this program, so we hope so.
Yeah.
I think that's
definitely want to do this again. Here's an offer that I will make to all of you. If you would, so the next 3 weeks, we're starting over. Same book. You have all of the materials. If you would like to join us with a new group of people, you are welcome to email me, and I will send you the login page that has the new login for the next 3 weeks. You already have the book and the materials, and we would love to have you again.
Yeah.
And we'll look at doing this. I know for sure because it's a lot of work to get this prepared. So I'm hoping that Amy will join me and we'll do this particular book again next year. But yeah.
Yes.
I think this has been a wonderful partnership. So
it's been one of the funnest projects I've ever worked on. And I just love the way you can participate from home in the middle of winter when there's nothing else to do. It's too cold and dark. So, and your feedback on it is really encouraging too. But it's been absolutely one of the funnest things I've ever worked on as a project.
So 3 things to leave you with tonight. If you want to join us for the next 3 weeks with a new group of people, email me. I'll send you the login page. 2, if you would like to express your thoughts, the good, the bad, or the ugly, of the book study, to where we can use that in newspaper articles or some kind of media, email me personally. And 3, be on the lookout for a survey. Hopefully I can get it out in the next couple of weeks. We'll
Okay.
see how my schedule goes. So thank you very much. Amy, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you for both of you for
Yes,
working
been
on this
fun.
with me. And
We just appreciate all of you so much for
Yeah,
joining
your
us.
comments have been absolutely fantastic.
They
I
have.
go away with, it's a boon to listen to your comments and share with you this book.
And I know we're out of time, but Shireen said both books you have done have changed my parenting and my life, and I agree. I'm right there changing along with you as I read and talk about it. It's awesome. So
Shireen, if you would like me to put that to our PR people, email me that so I can have your permission to do that. Okay, and if you have any thoughts on different books you want to do,
yes,
we'll take recommendations for that
We
too.
will.
I noticed there were some book recommendations
Great.
floating around in
I
there
like it.
today. So thank you very much. Go enjoy the rest of your evening. I need to go home and feed my dog.
Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you. Goodbye.